Hi everyone, this is Samantha Oakley from ALA's Public Programs Office. Welcome to today's webinar with Loudoun County Public Library. In this session, we will be talking about their Science on Tap program series that won the 2019 Excellence in Library Programming Award. Before we start, I'd like to make a few quick notes. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with support from ALA's Cultural Communities Fund. To learn more about the Cultural Communities Fund or make a contribution, visit ala.org/ccf. Hopefully many of you are familiar with Programming Librarian, a website of ALA's Public Programs Office. We have a lot of program ideas and an online learning library full of free webinars just like this one. A couple of notes about our virtual classroom. Only the presenters will have microphone access, but you are welcome to type questions in the chat box. To send a chat message, move your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom window and click Chat. Please note that the chat defaults to sending only to panelists. To make sure everyone can see your message, be sure to select all panelists and attendees in the drop-down box next to the To field in chat. If you have any technical issues, please use the Q&A window. To send a message through Q&A, move your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom window and click on Q&A. Please do not put technical questions in the chat window as they could be missed there. Finally, we are recording this session, so please feel free to watch it again or share it with colleagues. We'll send out a link to the recording within 48 hours after the session. Now, I'd like to introduce our speakers for this afternoon, Susan Van Epps and Lorraine Maffa. Susan is the Division Manager for Programming and Community Engagement at Loudoun County Public Library. Prior to that, she served 16 years in economic development for Loudoun County and 4 years in higher education administration for the University of Virginia. She holds a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's in history and archaeology. Lorraine first started working in a public library in high school as a page. Since then, she's worked at 17 Magazine, the William Morris Agency's Literacy Department, Young and Rubicam, Disney, and Weeder History Group. She is currently Programming Coordinator for Loudoun County Public Library. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Susan.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I know Lorraine and I are really excited to be here today. We are grateful for the recognition that this program was given, and we are looking forward to giving this webinar. So thank you very much. Since we are going to be focused on our slides throughout the presentation, at this point, I think we're going to go ahead and stop our videos just so we can focus on our slides, and we will get started. Okay. So thank you again and welcome everybody. To be honest, we will say right at the beginning, it is a little weird to be talking to everybody right now in the middle of a worldwide pandemic about a program that for us brought in large crowds of people who sat shoulder to shoulder. It's important to note that the Science on Tap program was created and was held before the coronavirus pandemic happened. And all the photos you're going to see today will reflect that. Even so, we really hope that you, the attendees, will find something in today's presentation that might be adaptable for you, either now, online, or in the future at your own library location. As you will see, we will talk about the program that we have in Loudoun, but also about how we feel like science expertise is something that every community has. We feel like every library system can pursue a program just like this one. So now, Lorraine Maffa, who created the program for Loudoun County Public Library and has hosted it since the beginning, will start us off and tell everyone about the program's origins.
Thank you, Susan and Samantha. Science on Tap is a monthly science program committed to making science accessible to everyone. The general public can explore the latest ideas in science and technology with a scientist in the relaxed environment of a brewery. It's fun and it's empowering. The idea originated on a walk around my son's college campus. I was blown away by the creating and inventing that was part of a student's daily life. I didn't have any specific ideas at that point, but a seed was planted to bring that kind of excitement to our library community. Susan and I started talking about doing something science-focused, and the research process began. Part of that process is always an internet search to discover if anyone else has done a version of the idea. Usually that answer is yes, and it was no different this time. There was a global grassroots movement pioneered by Nova Science cafes. Venues range from the university libraries to coffee houses to a neighborhood bar, and the names of the program can vary. The Nova site is a treasure for anyone wanting to start a program like this. You can access the website of different programs around the world, get advice on how to choose a scientist and how to run the program.
Okay, next we want to talk about why we thought the program would work in Loudoun County. Loudoun County is located about 25 miles west of Washington, D.C. It's home to the Dulles Technology Corridor, which is a high-density area of science-employed workers from around the world, as well as data centers that support much of the world's internet, and a community that supports high-tech schooling and education. It just seemed to make sense to us to try to bring this audience into the library world. So we wanted to create a program that connected the county's science and technology community to each other, but also to the interested members of the general public, while promoting the library to all of them. Our audience is comprised of scientists, science teachers, science majors, and those who have no science background at all, but just want to be better informed.
So why have the program in a brewery? An informal atmosphere that would encourage conversation and networking was important. It had to be a venue that people would be excited to visit with their friends. We looked at where the 21+ population was already congregating and then brought the program to them. This was a segment that was not attending library programs. Our attendance averaged over 150 attendees. Once we decided to have the program in a brewery, logistics were important. Acoustics, background noise, line of sight, ability to schedule time, flexible seating, and public access are all important considerations. While Old Ox has a relatively small public dining area, we liked that it also has a big separate space away from the tasting area, so conversation there doesn't compete with the speaker. We also like that Old Ox doesn't have a restaurant, so there's no obligation to spend money on food in order to attend the event. It can strictly be a free event. A food truck is always available outside the brewery, so if people want to eat, they can. The opportunity to purchase beer is always a very big draw for most attendees. I want to take a moment here to talk about something else that's really important about the site. The owners of Old Ox have been a tremendous asset to our program. They are enthusiastic, they show up at every event, they run the projector so that we have time to talk and mingle with the audience and attend to the scientist. The room is always perfectly set up before we arrive. They also become another friendly face associated with the program. Other venues weren't as hospitable, and it really affected the program. So who are the scientists? How did we find science in our community? Universities like George Mason University, George Washington University, Johns Hopkins, and the University of Maryland, and government agencies like the United States Geographical Survey, NASA, FBI, and National Institute of Health have been great resources for speakers. Scientists working in these organizations are usually very excited about sharing their research and benefit from the public feedback they receive at these events. The scientists need to be vetted though. A scientist might be renowned in his field or her field, but not comfortable speaking in front of an audience. Some ways you can vet a speaker is by searching for a presence on video, going on peer recommendations, or if it's a professor, you can check Rate My Professor. And we all know that site can be unfair sometimes, but it's a start. It's important that scientists are personable, friendly, comfortable answering questions, and able to discuss their research without using jargon. Most of our standing room only programs were related to space. We had one called What If Einstein Was Wrong that people just flipped over. I think the questions lasted an hour and the speaker was thrilled because up to that point, only other people in his field knew about his work. The speaker from NASA and a George Mason University professor who worked on the New Horizons mission also had great crowds. Both of these scientists had stories of the latest discoveries in space. But the surprising thing is that the fundamental science programs, such as the ones where scientists talked about their research on fruit flies, had great attendance as well, and across all age groups. Clearly, there is a thirst to become more science literate. People sometimes told me when they left a program that they didn't understand a lot of it, but they knew more than they did when they came in. And I truly think that people get a charge just being in the room with great minds. Other popular topics included wind turbines and the neuroscience of personality. The Howard Hughes Medical Institute's Genelia Research Campus has been a tremendous partner and asset to this program. They are one of the top 3 fundamental biomedical research facilities in the world and have contacts with our nation's best scientists. Many of Science on Tap speakers have either worked at or been recommended by Genelia. They are happy to leave the coordination and marketing to us, but are enthusiastic about their role to bring world-class scientists to these events. So these are just some of the scientists that we had speak and the subjects that they spoke about. And you can see there's a really wide range there. Some of the scientists in our audience have approached us about speaking. This is Charles Yeager, Chief Explosive Bomb Scientist for the FBI. He attended one of our programs and afterwards said he would love to do one himself. He got the okay from the FBI and was one of our most witty, engaging speakers. He spoke about how his team can put together fragments from a bomb site to create the bomber's identity and the specific circumstances of that bomber's plan. It was really fascinating, and he was approachable for someone with an important job like that.
So now you may be thinking, hey, I don't live in a major metropolitan area. I don't have the Howard Hughes Medical Institute Genelia Research Campus in my backyard. How could I ever host a Science on Tap program at my library? While we are lucky to be located near many scientific organizations, we really want to emphasize that science and scientists are everywhere, and you too can host this program. So start by looking for scientists in your own backyard. You'll find them in your community hospitals, universities, energy and agriculture companies, publishing organizations, and local, state, and federal government. Next, think about this. During the pandemic, you actually have an opportunity you may have never had before. If you choose to host online programming, the sky is truly the limit on who you can ask to speak. You can look for speakers from around the world. We are finding right now that many authors and other presenters are very willing to host online sessions, while offering programs in person was much more challenging for their very busy schedules. We also find that our speakers have a snowball effect. Once you run a program for a while and you bring in a speaker from a great organization, he or she has a larger scientific community and will often tell other people about it. Those experts may reach out to us or be recommended to us to speak. One speaker naturally leads to others. Next, let's take a look at what a typical program looks like. You can see from this photo that the format of the program is really simple and easily replicated. In our old Oxbury Brewery room setup, which we have improved over time, we focus the audience at the back of the room with the scientist in front of the wine barrels. Lorraine provides a welcome and an introduction, and the scientist will talk for about 35 to 45 minutes. Scientists generally use a PowerPoint presentation, but we ask that they not rely on it too heavily. We want the programs to be lively. Then he or she will kick off the questions and answers, which is usually the most interesting part of the program. The questions from the audience are truly amazing, and it's a terrific opportunity for the scientists to get feedback on his or her work. The people asking questions are in effect introducing themselves and their thoughts to the audience, so it's an awesome networking opportunity. There's always a lot of mingling that's going on both before and after the program. Next, we want to take a look at marketing and budget, getting the word out about the program and the library. Regarding marketing, we are not only promoting Science on Tap, but we use the opportunity of Science on Tap to be in front of a large audience and market to them everything else cool that we have going on. This program is a great outreach opportunity for us, and it can be for you too. Our library has a table set up with flyers for other programs and future Science on Tap events. Attendees are able to sign up for library cards and ask questions about their accounts. A Makerspace employee, someone who usually works with technology in our library branches, such as 3D printers and computerized carving machines, is usually also on hand to promote the good work being done in these special library spaces. As you can see, our communications department developed the Science on Tap imagery with the beer, the beaker, and the hops, and we use that on all our promotional material. We share it on social media, flyers and branches, in our library guide, our electronic newsletter, and our website. But also very important, our partner host, Old Ox Brewery, promotes the event on their Facebook page and sends an email out to their mailing list. A good deal of our attendees learn about the program from their prominent promotions on their Facebook pages. And as a result, many Science on Tap attendees visit as a result of their large cross-county network of fans. Word of mouth is also another way people hear about the events. We often note that several employees from the data center company next door, RagingWire, walk over together to attend the Science on Tap programs. And the company's leadership has been very encouraging and supportive of our efforts to bring science talks to this tech corridor area. Speaking of support, the public does really seem to love the opportunity to participate in this program. To gauge response, we created a simple evaluation sheet, and we put it on every other chair along with a pencil. Someone also stands next to the library table to talk to people as they leave the program. Comments are overwhelmingly positive. As I mentioned before, residents of other counties often attend and will often come up and tell us they wish their community would host a similar program. Attendees compliment Loudoun County Public Library for bringing such high-level talks out to such a welcoming, relaxed public location. And one last note on marketing. Here's one more great reason why any community can host Science on Tap. It has been essentially free to us from the beginning. Thanks to our extremely gracious host, our accommodating speakers, and our very helpful staff partners, we have zero out-of-pocket costs. Really, the only cost we have is the staff time it takes to put together, host, and market the program.
One of the questions we ask on the evaluations is what other topics people would like to learn about. There were a lot of recommendations for other science programs, but also for history. As a result, we've launched 3 new programs: History on Tap, sometimes called History and Hops, depending on where we have it, Beer and Art, and Armchair Travel. We have a core of local historians who do our History on Tap programs, and 1 local art history teacher who does our Beer and Art and Armchair and Travel programs. These speakers are delighted to have a chance to reach an audience, and they're passionate about their subjects and make these talks very much fun. There's a loyal following for these events, and attendance numbers are generally between 100 and 200. One of the things we're most excited about is that Science on Tap has contributed to a new image, an expanded brand for the library on who we are and who we serve. We're also excited that people leave the programs a little smarter and enthusiastic about science and more connected with each other. And finally, we're proud to be part of the larger grassroots program to bring science directly to the community. We didn't have it all together before we jumped in with a George Washington University professor. The sound was bad, but we made improvements over time. Things we've learned is to choose the venue carefully, vet the speaker, and if you look for science, you'll find it. Once you have a program in place and get the word out, enthusiasm for the event will bring both speakers and a solid audience. And if the first one doesn't work quite right, try again with a different speaker and a different topic. Thank you so much for your time.
Great. Thank you, Lorraine and Susan. So we're going to open it up now for questions. So be sure to type any questions you have in the chat box. Remember to change the to field to send to all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see it and not just the panelists. In the meantime, we did receive a question while you guys were talking. One person was wondering what this might look like or how it might work in a location with fewer tech businesses and resources.
I'll start, and Lorraine, if you want to add to it, feel free.
Sure.
I think, every community has spaces. It's just a question of, what space might work for you and for your community. If you don't have, the breweries or things like that, you can look at things like restaurants and restaurant banquet rooms or coffee shops, or maybe even hotel meeting rooms, possibly. That could be another potential. Any other thoughts, Lorraine?
Was the question if you don't have a lot of tech speakers? I'm sorry. Can you?
Yeah, maybe
Samantha?
A lot of tech businesses or resources in the area. So anyone that might not have.
Oh, maybe I misunderstood the question. Go ahead, Lorraine.
You can fine tune this and make it your own. I noticed that one library wasn't in a techie area, but what they did have was a really fantastic hospital near them. And they had so many surgeons speak about the latest in healthcare. I mean, they had their lead heart surgeon talk to people about what was new in heart care. And I think that would be fascinating. I mean, it was a full hospital series throughout the year. So there is science everywhere. You just kind of have to open your mind to it and decide what it might look like for your community in particular. You can reach out to teachers. Sometimes even a high school teacher might be really passionate about his or her subject, but then also say, hey, I had a college professor that was really great. Do you want to invite her to speak? So it's out there. You just have to do a little brainstorming.
Great, and we're having a few other questions come in. So the next one is, do you think your program will be just as successful when taken out of the brewery and into the virtual environment?
Oh, I'd let Lorraine take that one, but I can say so far, we've been doing online programs since March. It's a new thing for us. A lot of them have been extremely successful. Lorraine, do you want to comment on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will have to evolve, right? Yeah. Everything is evolving, everything is changing. And it, like the first time around, it might not work right out of the box, but we'll learn and it will get better. I think there's always going to be a need or a want of scientists to go to the public and share what they're doing. And I think there's always going to be a curiosity on the public's part about that. And if programs are all being done virtually now, that's everybody will get used to getting their information that way. And it might even grow because, as Susan said, you don't just have to be confined to your local scientists.
Thanks. The next question is around speaker honorariums. If any of the people that you've approached to talk at the program have ever asked for a honorarium in order to speak, and if so, how did you broach that subject?
Not one has ever asked, which gives you an idea of how happy they are to do this.
Great. The next question is, was the food truck already outside of the brewery, or do you have to schedule that?
That's an easy one. I can take that one. We don't have to do anything for that. Along with everything else that Old Ox takes care of for us, they also are in charge of scheduling the food trucks. They have a different one usually every time we come. And that's just one more nice thing about the program is people can come have dinner from a different food truck every time they come out to Science on Tap. And we don't have to set it up.
And one thing we didn't mention is that this event is held on a Tuesday night.
Oh, yeah.
So these food trucks are just really so happy. I mean, they don't generally get business on a Tuesday night. So I'm happy to be there.
The next question is more about if you could speak more about what challenges you have faced with doing an offsite program.
Well, I mean, just the original idea was kind of, very new. We hadn't done anything like this before, and it was a little bit scary. And I really have to thank Susan because she was just so supportive. Way she didn't, just say no. Like we said, the sound system was difficult in the beginning.
I can tell you I'll just interject, Lorraine, real quick. I can say
Sure.
At the beginning, we didn't have any idea what the appeal of this program was going to be. And I think we
Right.
started chairs. And quickly we were like, oh no, we need a lot more chairs. So luckily Old Ox stepped to the rescue again and took care of that for us so that we have enough seating. And I don't know if it's just another little thing that they did. The room was kind of warm in the summertime. They bought this gigantic industrial silent fan that cools the room. So you do have to work with your facility that you're hosting it with, and hopefully you get a partner in all of this. The owners of Old Ox are wonderful partners to us, and they're really trying to help the program be as successful as possible for our benefit as much as theirs.
Another challenge is just getting the word out. So you ask this really terrific speaker to come out and you just say, oh my gosh, I hope there's an audience for this. I think people are going to be very interested, but how do we get the word out to them? And Old Ox has been so helpful with that as well, because they can put things up on their Facebook and, posters in their facility. And it's just one more way of getting the word out to people.
And Genelia as well. They also help.
Oh, absolutely.
We work as a team.
Yeah.
And Lorraine does a great job with all of them.
Yeah. You just need the team. And once you have a couple, people will start looking for them. What's the next one? And you make sure you have flyers, at one program for the next couple. But yeah, I can't think of anything. One time a pump went off in the middle of the speaker's talk, and pumps are really loud in a brewery, and that was very unpleasant, and they couldn't shut it off, so the speaker was yelling over it, and I wouldn't want that to happen again. But we got through it, and everybody was very tolerant. They understood, the liabilities of having an event in a casual atmosphere like that.
Great. We have one question in the Q&A that I'm just going to answer really quick. Yes, the session is being recorded, and a link to the recording will be shared out within 48 hours of the webinar. The next question is, I'm going to combine the two questions in the chat. They're both around registration. One is if you have people pre-register for the session whenever it was live, or now that you're moving to virtual, are you going to have people require registration for that?
Good, Susan.
No, we've never used registration. The only gauge we really have going into a program is from our Facebook event responses of people who are interested or say that they're attending. That's usually the only thing that we do. We've never done registration when we were holding it in person, and now that we're doing online programming, we're not using registration either.
Great. So that's all the questions that I've seen come through so far. We'll stick around for a couple of more minutes in case anyone else has some lingering questions. In the meantime, I can ask a question. Is there any, do you do any formal letter of agreement with your speakers before the event, or is it just verbal agreement?
Lorraine, I'll let you do that one.
There's back and forth with emails about what the expectations are and the dates. And these are extremely professional people. There's no signed contract to sign or anything like that. But, there are, agreements on the specifics in the emails about when to show up and what the talk will be about and that kind of thing.
Great. So we've had another question come through. Have you done a virtual program yet? And if so, have you seen it drawing from area outside of your service area?
We haven't done a Science on Tap yet. We've done a lot of other kinds of programs, and yes, we've seen people. We've done some of the beer and art and armchair travel programs virtually. And yes, we've gotten people from out of state, which is really neat. And then Susan's working with Jamelia on some science programs. I'll let you talk about that, Susan.
Great. Yeah, we are putting together a 3-part series with some of their scientists from around the country, actually, on the science of coronavirus. So that's a 3-part series that's going to be online starting September 28th. And then October 1st and October 7th, I think, are the 3 dates. So we encourage anyone to go out to library.loudoun.gov and look at our program calendar, and all 3 dates will be listed there very soon.
Great. And were you able to record any of the live sessions whenever they happen in the brewery?
No, sorry. That's a little bit of a frustration. We've had people try, and the files were so large, we couldn't do anything with them. What we really needed is to someone sit there with a big video camera, and we just didn't have, the staff. It was something that we were going to try and make work, but we just didn't yet, unfortunately.
And then we have a request to describe more about your beer and art program.
So the beer and art program is by an art historian who works for he's an art history teacher at a private school, and he is passionate about art. So he will talk about, we have an upcoming one where he's going to talk about women Renaissance artists. But generally he will spotlight the art in a certain place, in Italy or Germany or Amsterdam, and he'll show us pictures of the art, and he'll just really go into detail about the symbolism behind the art and what's so special about it. And people just absolutely love it. He's also done programs on mythology and on certain places in the architecture. He did a 2-part series on the architecture in New York City. And they're just a lot of fun, especially these days when you can't go anywhere. People really like to tune in online for those kind of programs.
Great. The next question is about evaluation. So in addition to obtaining comments from people and looking at the overall number of those who have attended, are there any other ways you have evaluated the success of the program?
I'm trying to think. Lorraine, feel free to jump in. One of the things I think is really interesting, we do very, very simple evaluation forms, because we find if you ask too many questions, you will not get them back. But one of the things I always like to look at are, we ask people zip code. And we find that when we run a program, we pull from 3 or 4 counties, and sometimes we've pulled from others from Maryland and from West Virginia in some cases. So it's really a testament, I think, to the power of the program and the marketing share collaborative efforts that we have with Old Ox and with Howard Hughes. And so that's one way that I can say, yeah, that this program seems to really be working based off just word of mouth, and how we're not marketing to other counties, but people from other counties are coming into Loudoun to attend the program.
And I'll add to that. I mean, I know the trend now is to look at data, for most things, but I'm kind of old school. I really mingle during the events. I mean, I try and reach almost everyone in the audience. Hi, how are you? Did you like this? What was the experience? And people really like talking about it. So the feedback is so overwhelmingly positive that it's going well. People are interested in this. They keep telling us, please continue, please keep having these. We never thought we could have something like this in our community. So that's the biggest indication, I think, to us that this has been successful.
Great. And then have you faced any difficulties trying to convince administration or other library staff about carrying out this program?
No, thankfully, we have a very, very supportive leadership system, a very supportive director and assistant director. They were at some of the first attendees at the program, and they loved that we were working with partners in the community. I didn't know, I'll be honest, right at the beginning, I didn't know what the reaction might be having a program called Science on Tap. I was a little bit nervous if we would get complaints because we're having a program in a brewery, but we are a community that is very, I think, very welcoming and friendly to the small businesses that run the breweries and the wineries in our county. We have quite a few of them, over 70. In fact, I went and checked the number the other day. No, I would say that we've had a lot of great support from the very beginning. Lorraine, feel free to add anything if you want.
No, I just second what Susan says. I mean, these partnerships, it's such a huge part of our county, and they're enjoyed by so many people. So it just kind of makes sense to go into them, you know, where all these people are. And also too, I don't know if we really have a meeting room large enough for some of these events. So that's the other thing we had to consider, going outside.
And then with speaking about the size of the events, one person is wondering if 150 is average for your programs.
I'm not sure if you mean for Science on Tap or for all programs in general, but
I think programs in general.
oh no, I would say that it's much larger than our average program. Our average in-person program in a library branch pre-COVID, I think was approximately 35 or 40. So this is a significantly larger program. One of the largest programs that we do across the course of the year. You know, for a regular series program, it's definitely one of the largest programs that we hold.
And that looks to be all the questions that we have. So we'll do last call. And if no one else has any other questions, we will wrap things up. We do have another question. So how do you decide on the topics?
So, you know, I try and keep abreast of what people are talking about in the media, what science topics, and then try and find a scientist that's, you know, an expert in his or her field to come in about that. What people are asking for at Science on Tap events. Janelia comes to us with so many speakers, of course, and, you know, they know who's doing the latest and the greatest. And so we choose the topics based on that. When we start to look at some of the local universities, you know, which departments are really strong in those universities? Where does it look like they're really shaking things up? And so we'll have representation from maybe that department. So the answer to that question is, there's a lot of things that go into deciding what the topics are. It's not that we just have our mindset on, yes, we want to have a space program and then start looking at that. You know, we're open to a lot of different topics and speakers.
Great. So when you began this program, did you see it as temporary? And how long do you think you will continue to offer it?
We didn't really know. I mean, we didn't see it as a temporary thing. Certainly, we want to stay with it as long as we can because so much good is coming out of it. And, you know, if things change as a result of COVID and this has to change a little bit, we'll keep trying to do that as long as we feel that people find this information valuable and enjoy it and that scientists enjoy doing it. We'll continue it.
Great. I think that's all the questions that we have. So I'm going to thank Lorraine and Susan for today's excellent presentation and give you both a quick minute to say any last words before we let everyone go.
Well, on behalf of Loudoun County Public Library, I'll just thank you again, Samantha. Thank you to the Public Programs Office for allowing us to profile this program today. We were really excited to do it. So thank you.
Great. Thanks everyone for attending today's webinar, and thank you to my colleagues behind the scene, BB Brown and Hannah Arata. And the session will be shared as a recording link within 48 hours. Thank you.
Thank you.